What are Penn State's Big Ten title odds? Okay, fine. I'll tell you. I won't make you look it up yourself. It's plus 600. Plus 600. That's not the longest set of odds that I have seen for a team that could reasonably win their conference championship. You got Texas Tech, for instance, over in the Big 12. Their conference championship odds plus 850, rather steep. For Penn State, though, they have the fourth best odds. And then the drop-off between them and team number 5, who I have as the number 1 dark horse to win the Big Ten, that's USC, is rather substantial. It goes from plus 600 to plus 2,300. So Vegas doesn't think USC has that great of a shot. I think it's better than plus 2,300. But I think Penn State's odds should be higher than plus 600. They're being undervalued in that spot. Why? Well, they're currently behind the Michigan Wolverines at plus 260, the Oregon Ducks at plus 250, and the Big Ten favorites, of course, Ohio State, at plus 155, which, as far as conference title favorites go, those are pretty short odds, meaning Vegas really, really likes Ohio State. But I don't think Penn State can be overlooked in this discussion. They do not have a head-to-head with Oregon, by the way. We don't know what the tiebreakers are going to be now that the Big Ten has done away with divisions, which is what everyone should, of course, be doing in college football, because divisions like auto bids for the playoff are ridiculous in many ways, but it's what happens in a sport that doesn't have great governance structure, so we just kind of have to live with it as college football fans. But for Penn State's odds to be the fourth best in the Big Ten, I think is undervaluing the Nittany Lions. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, Penn State is returning 70% of their production according to ESPN's Bill Connelly. Well, that metric has historically been indicative of success. For example, last year, 3 of the top 25 teams in returning production were, wait for it, Michigan. Michigan was up there. Washington was up there. Oh, and Texas was up there. Penn State returned 70% of production from a team that did what last year? Oh, yeah. They had a 10-2 regular season with their only losses coming to Ohio State and Michigan, per our usual arrangement for the team up in College Station, or in State College, Pennsylvania, rather. Whew, boy, can't get that one wrong. Now, can I? Right? I mean, that would just be absolutely blasphemous. But anyway, so for the Nittany Lions here, I just think there's some real value at plus 600 because you've got the returning production factor. And when you think about the Nittany Lions last year, what did you think about? Well, how great their defense was and how their offense was, it was okay. They were just all right. I have a couple principles when talking about college football teams that I regularly apply. One of those is going to come into play here with Penn State momentarily. But Penn State, they lose Manny Diaz as their defensive coordinator. All right, not great. I think Manny Diaz is pretty sharp. He goes to Duke. He's got Malik Murphy coming over from Texas. The Blue Devils could be a solid team in the ACC. But we're talking about the Big Ten here because Penn State returned 70% of their overall production from a year ago. They've got their quarterback returning, and they've got him a new offensive coordinator. Do you know the name Andy Kotelnicki? Probably not. You probably haven't heard it before listening to or watching the show, unless you're, of course, a fan of the Nittany Lions. That is the new offensive coordinator for James Franklin. This is a really good hire and an under-the-radar hire for Penn State in the large context of college football. Because when you think about big coordinator hires, it's hard to make a big splash. Garrett Riley getting hired to Clemson last year was a big splash. Why? He was the OC on a TCU team that overachieved, went to the national championship game, and of course got blown out by Georgia. But a lot of teams have been blown out by Georgia. Not a whole heck of a lot of shame in that. But this is a move that I really like for Penn State. Where has Kotelnicki been the last 3 years? Oh, with Lance Leipold at Kansas. See how I paused there for dramatic effect to just let that kind of marinate and sit with you for a moment? Because Kansas has been one of the most remarkable coaching jobs in all of college football. Their offense has been exceptional. And with Jalen Daniels at quarterback, when he's been healthy, Kansas has been a top 25 football team. Remember, Kansas beat Oklahoma last year. Do you know how crazy of a sentence fundamentally that is to say in college football? Lance Leipold's a great coach, but a great coach can only be as good as the staff he is able to put together. And he had put together a really good staff. And Andy Kotelnicki was one of the guys who headlined that staff. And over the last few years, Kansas has had a premier offense in college football. on that side of the ball, specifically what I like about this marriage between Kotil-Nicki, who's got a good background with a really good college quarterback in Jalen Daniels, and Drew Aller, the returning quarterback at Penn State. And remember my rule. Remember one of my many rules. I am going to lean in favor of teams that return both their head coach and quarterback from the previous season. Not exclusively, but that's a good foundation to have because it's not a common one in college football. So Drew Aller comes back to start for another year. James Franklin is there, new offensive coordinator. By the way, did you know that last year Kansas was 12th in the country in creating 20-plus yard plays on offense? What was the biggest critique of Drew Aller and the Penn State offense last year? Too much dink and dunk. You had a reporter, he got clowned by James Franklin, and understandably so. He just didn't ask the question in the best possible way. But what he was getting at was, why is there not a greater vertical presence to this offense? Why is everything dink and dunk, no explosive, nothing of the sorts? So they bring in a new offensive coordinator. And this is another rule I have. When you've got a weakness on the field, whether you're a good team or a bad team, and you aggressively attack it with good moves, either in the coaching carousel or transfer portal in the offseason, I'm going to feel good about you. And so for Penn State to have more returning production than a Michigan team that they almost beat last year, to upgrade their offensive coordinator, to keep their head coach and quarterback in place for another year of development of your young and very talented signal caller, that's a series of moves that compared to Michigan, who's got a new-ish head coach, a new quarterback, and is not returning 70% of their production from the previous year, I think Penn State should have higher Big Ten championship odds than the Michigan Wolverines. I don't know that it should be a gap of plus 460 to plus 600, but I don't think that gap should exist between those teams whatsoever. I think that Penn State and Michigan are closer than the sports books think. That's my take, and that's why. I think the Nittany Lions in the Big Ten, yeah, they could win it. I've seen it happen before. It's not impossible. It's just that Ohio State and Oregon are very good. They're absolutely good. But guess what? These games are played, I believe the old saying is, on the field, not on paper. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what they say, because that's exactly what it is. Offensive coordinator. You bring in a guy like Julian Fleming from Ohio State to boost the receiving core. Drew Aller is back. 70% returning production. I think Penn State's Big Ten championship odds are just a little bit low. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.